It's time for a review. I am reviewing Macross Delta Zettai Raibu. Since, I did the live stream yesterday, well, technically this morning, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I'm going to go through the story a little bit. I was trying to think of a good background picture for it, but because I wanted to, have spoilers without all that stuff, but the picture I really wanted to use is at the very, 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 very end, and that would just spoil the entire stinking movie, and I don't think that would be very nice. So I picked this picture. It's right as Yamikure actually forms, becomes what it is. So, so that's why I picked this picture. Actually, I ripped the DVD and just, stopped it at one point. So, that's all. Anyway, so let me go through the story really quickly. I'm going to do this differently because, nobody's really watched it yet outside of a few people. So, well, at least outside Japan anyway, right? So, after the war with Windermere's over, Windermere's trying to have peace talks with the Earth government. They, as part of the festivities and stuff, they have a big concert of Watakure in Windermere in the main city. Everything is really, really nice, and then the next day, they all fly to Freya's hometown that she ran away from to go join Watakure. And so you get to meet the village chief, who she mentioned at her birthday party in the first Delta movie and even in the TV series. How, as she's gotten older, that he's been trying to force her to get married. So you get to meet him. You see some of her friends. Then at night, there's a nice little, party, feast, whatever you want to call it, with apples and things. And so everybody's just having a good time. You actually get to hear about Kaname's forgotten history, about how she likes to say she was on stage together with Ranka when she was a solo idol. Turns out it was just Kaname's trying to hide the fact that she was on top of one of those space cows or space hippo cow things that you see in Frontier, and she ended up losing her top, so she's topless riding on top of this thing, and Nanka was just there watching, supposedly. So that was kind of funny. It's a very interesting scene. Mikomo getting challenged by children because she's drinking apple milk the entire time, and the kids are like, oh, you can't have the fizzy stuff, you don't like fizzy stuff, and then she just takes the big bottle of it and downs it. So it's showing that this was a something somebody said about the movie when they were just reviewing the stupid what is it, previews that they had for it. How they said, oh, Mikumo's just emotionless again, and no, it's not true at all. And that's the first time where you start to see Mikumo start to show curiosity and act more like a person instead of just a stupid clone, which gets much deeper later, which we'll get into. So they have fun. Then a few guys who don't want the aliens on their planet of Windermere try to start something. They get told to back down by Johan, who's not like a priest, but he works through the temple, and he's a key character for some foreshadowing in a little bit. And then after he arrives, after that little garbage happens, suddenly the there's some protoculture ruins nearby, so Mikomo goes to check them out and take a look at them. The inscription on the ruins is very, very important. The inscription there is not of Hoshino Taite, okay? It is an inscription, if you go back and watch Macross 0, of the Tori no Hito. So that's something else to add questions to the lore going forward, and about Windermere in itself, okay? Of course, Hayate basically says he wants to spend the rest of his life with Freya, and then she sings the Ringo no Uta, which is supposed to be like a song of legend among Windermereans, and she explains how the flowers of an apple tree only live for 10 days and then they fall, and it's all a metaphor for the fact that Windermereans don't live very long, and she's trying to say that you'll definitely outlive me. Are you really sure you want to be involved with me, kind of thing? And of course Hayate says, yeah, whatever, typical thing, right? And then from there you have the attack by Heimdall, the first attack. And so this is where the canon of the movies takes precedent, and the member of the Kuchu Kishidan from in the TV series, one particular member dies. I always forget his name. It's not that important. But he dies in the TV series. But in the movies, he's alive, and he stays alive. He outlives, he lives through all of this stuff. But there's the two twins, there's Teo and Zao, and Teo is shot down and killed, like, right away. So it's like a throwback to Kakizaki's death, where they're just kind of talking, and suddenly out of nowhere, boom, he's dead. Teo got the same fate. His twin brother Zao survives. He ejects. So they get wiped the floor with by the SV-303s. And they actually straight up say that they're ghosts. Chuck does a scan of the ships and sees that they're unmanned. So the SV-303s are unmanned Valkyries. And then another ship comes and folds in to rescue everybody after they've gotten basically the crap kicked out of them. And one thing I forgot to mention, that there's just before that, when they're evacuating the people of the town into this temple, Johan is using his power to try to put up a barrier to protect everybody. The thing is that it causes him to crystallize or whatever, Keshoka. And so when they rescue him, he's not living very long. So they get rescued. Delta Squad and Water Kyudai go up to the bridge, and Hayate notices a giant Zentradi there. And then Mirage walks in and says, "Oh, Exidor Formo." Oh, so that means... And then you hear Max introduce himself. And of course, Mirage figures it was Grandpa, basically. Of course, his first words are, he's saying, you're not watching your blind spot enough. So, the same thing that actually Messer says in the, I think it was in the first movie, or the TV set, I can't remember which, but Messer makes a similar comment. So it's a throwback to that as well. So you get Max and Exodore, and just there's a little Easter egg there that one of the operators on the Macross Giga Shion has the exact same hairstyle and looks almost exactly like Hayase Misa from the first Macross. And that's just a little Easter egg there that they did. They purposely did that for fans like me, who would notice that kind of thing right away. So they explain the situation. They explain that, and then Heimdall gives a speech about how the war. Now this speech is incredibly important because it's not only about Heimdall, but it leads into why the technology is limited in Macross 2. Okay, and this is connecting to Macross 2. Okay, is that Heimdall believes that Lady M is controlling the Earth government, controlling Chaos and all these other groups to prevent the advancement of humanity and technology. She's basically saying we can do what we want, but you guys can't. Basically, is basically his position, and his proof of this is the fact that they use cloning, which is illegal. Cloning is illegal. After I think it was after the second Zentradi attack of Macross City in 2030. I can't remember when they made it illegal though. But they made cloning illegal, galaxy-wide law that no cloning, but they use cloning to make Mikumo, right? So he's saying that, well, Lady M can use this technology for her own benefit, but we can't. So our goal is to get rid of Lady M so we can have our freedom back, have our freedom to expand on technology and everything like that. So that's basically the background behind that. The black market illegal company, Epsilon is back. So there and there's a direct comment by Ion Chroma, who's the head of Heimdall, saying later in the movie where he says that, oh, you're playing off both Windermere and us. He's like, you're both important customers. So it's saying that Belger Stone's influence, he basically was selling all the SV262s or whatever they're called, to Windermere during the war with Windermere and Chaos and all that stuff that takes place in the first movie. And so now they're selling to Heimdall. Now, what I want to make a major point about Yami Kyure. Now, this is big spoilers about this because it's hard to remember all this stuff all at once because it's just there's so much that happens in this movie that trying to, and I watched it 3 times yesterday, and I still don't remember everything because there's just so much detail that's in this movie. So what Yami Kyure is and what Yami Kumo is the Siren, what they call the Siren Delta system or the Siren system is it's the Sharon Apple virtualoid system, but instead of using a bio-neurochip like they did in in Macross Plus, what they did is that there were 2 sets, I guess you want to say sets, for the Hoshino Taite. One of them became Mikumo, which actually is through Johan and Hayate's father get the that cell to Lady M, and then Lady M is able to clone Mikumo. And then the other cell was never recovered, and Hayate's father was killed trying to find it. Now it turns out that this guy from Epsilon that's with Cromwell on the Battle Astrea is the one who stole the other one, and then to have it learn naturally and not have the same problem that the Sharon Apple bioneural chip had, they implanted the cells into the Siren system so that it could learn and naturally grow. And this is vitally important for later in the ending. So that's what Yamikuri actually is they're virtualoids, virtual idols that are the Sharon Apple system with AI system with the other remaining cells of basically Mikumo, and they put it together into one single system, which is why through learning it could create 5 characters, and through deep learning it can create these 5 characters, and they will using one brain basically, so they're like able to so Watakure requires 5 actually physical girls. This only requires 1 physical living being creating 5 things, so you can tell the power difference there, right? And Watakure doesn't really do anything special in this movie. It's all Yamikure beating them up, right? So and also the Siren system is what controls the SV303s. So through the deep learning, they're actually able to maneuver faster. They're quicker to respond because they're unmanned. So basically, taking what the Ghost X9 did from Macross Plus, which that gave Isamu and Galda a whole lot of trouble, and making it 1,000 times worse. So, because the Ghost was controlled by Sharon Apple's bioneural chip at the end, right? So, and this is a way better system than Sharon Apple's system. So, you can just see where this is going. And so, so the reasoning for why Cromwell's doing what he's doing, he was and Cromwell is basically explained very simply because he's not that important of a character, to be honest. He's just there as the MacGuffin to be the baddie, basically. He was a very famous hero, where he took a single ship and put down an entire Zentradi splinter fleet. Now, I will say this. It says that he's 56 years old. Like, if you look at the data when they're looking at it, I forgot which scene it was, where they're actually looking at his background data. I think it's shortly after that. They call him Quarters Zentradi, okay? But he's 56 years old. How could he be Quarters Zentradi if the war ended in 2010 and the war with Zentradi ended in 2010, and if he's 56 years old, that means he would have been born in 2012. He would have been born the year Mean Mate and Mega Road 1 and all that left Earth. So just keep that in mind, that there are some things that if you look really carefully, you'll be like, huh, why? And that doesn't make any sense. So that's one thing that didn't make sense to me in this movie. Even when I watched it the first time, I'm like, wait a minute, how could he be a Quarters Zentradi when they had just ended the war like a couple years before he was born? I don't know. But anyway, that getting beyond that, So having Exodor and Max here really pushes the story along. Of course, because the Siegfrieds have all been, damaged. Machina and Dana are trying to repair them, and they basically repair them using parts for the Kairos. So this is why they're the Kairos Plus now. Mirage puts the logo that Max has on his Durandal on her Valkyrie 2 because she's a genius. And that's where we go from there. Of course, Johann does die, and you watch him die as a Windermerean does, and this is all complete foreshadowing to what's going to happen at the end of the movie. So, Hayate and all the others had never seen a Windermerean die like that before, to become one with the wind. So it was very shocking to a lot of them, and even Machina was kind of worried about it, and Freya's been kind of, sad about Johann dying and that kind of stuff, because he warned her about, don't overdo it because it'll lead to you, like, your life being shortened if you let your rune, like, shine too much. So this is vitally important for later. And then, of course, after all that stuff, they finish all that stuff, and then they finish setting up the Kairos Pluses, and they need to do a shakedown of them because they added a new system that'll allow them to add through Watercure songs that'll actually make they'll be able to move faster and stuff like that, kind of like the way the SV303s do. With the Yami Kyure songs. And so, during the shakedown, they're using what they're called super ghosts. They're like really, really crazy strong ghosts, and they're faster, and they've got more engines. They're a little bit bigger, too. And these are the brown ones that say 09 on them. And so after they take care of, doing those, like taking them down in practice and disabling them as when they get shot, Hayate says, "Oh, well, we were able to get him," and then Arad is like, "No, that's not even a portion of that's not even what the real thing is like, because the SV303s are much better than that." And then Max says, "That's right," and flies out, and you hear Chuck say, "Why is there a blue Durandal out here?" And then Mirage like, "Oh God." And yeah, it's Max just basically wiping the floor with everybody. Borg and Hayate get into a fight over trying to shoot him down. Borg gets taken down. Max sees Hayate do his Imelman dance, and he basically, whoops his ass. It's a total... like, they couldn't stand a chance. Even, like, Borg noticed that the wind, because how they can feel the wind when they're flying. Like, they thought, like Shirokishi, Keith, and, Messer were, like, the two best. And they're like, even Borg could tell this is a totally different pilot. And Hayate says the same thing. He notices, like, I can't even predict where he's gonna move because he's, he can't, like, even with Messer he was able to predict some kind of movements. Max, you couldn't predict him, and so he tries to pull off his typical dancing stuff, and Max just says, screw this. And after he beats him, he says, well, I guess I'll call it the incredible dance. Just Max is so Max in this movie. So after that, there's a scene where one of the cyborgs that Chroma was actually able to get into this asteroid base that they're using to hide out for the time being, which is a direct... it's a decommissioned base, but it's the shape and everything, if you look very carefully, is a direct reference to the episode Biba Maria from the original TV series, where Max and Miria took Comedia to, capture the base with, Zettai and them, post-war. So that's a reference to that. Okay. Well, they get found out. The cyborg is able to what is it? The cyborg is able to, get the data to Cromwell. Of course, this is right before this scene right here happens. Okay, so that's on the screen right now. He managed to get that information to Cromwell so they can find out about Lady M. Now, Max explains what Lady M is. But during this, Alad gets his leg broken by this thing. So he can't fly now. There's a lot of foreshadowing happening with this. You'll understand why in a minute. Like every major event that happens in a bad way is a foreshadowing of something that happens later. It's complete foreshadowing. And so Max explains what Lady Mega Road 1 is. I just spoiled it for everybody. Lady M is the name for Lady Mega Road 1, which is the Mega Road 1 that lost contact with everything in 2016 after it left Earth on 2012, which is flashback 2012. The communication signature is Mega Road 1, and they explain that I guess Lady M uses like other people to communicate through different people to get out the orders to Chaos and stuff like that. So it's not like direct from Mega Road 1, but they're using communication signals to different places to transmit that information to the people who need it. The signal that was they have a special encoding system that that Mega Road 1 has, that Lady M uses, that is through song notes, like sheet music. So by using sheet music, they're able, they use that as an encoding procedure, and then when that gets sent out, it's decoded, and then the message is given to whoever it needs to be given to, basically. But by finding out what this encoding is, they can track Mega Road 1's location. Okay? So, the thing is that they lost contact with Mega Road 1 in 2016. It's 2068 during the events of this movie. So, they don't know exactly who they're talking to with Mega Road 1. Exodus says this very explicitly, that they don't know if it's if Lady M is somebody who's on Mega Road 1 or some other I guess alien that they're having communication with. Borg, of course, is like, well, Lady M and Cromwell are the same shit to me. Which, from his perspective, yeah, he's right. I'm not going to argue against him. Because he's got a point. But Belger Stone in the Macross Delta TV series talks about the location of where Lady M possibly might be. Where Lady M is caught, or Mega Road 1 is caught in fold space at a particular location. I don't remember exactly what he says in the TV series. I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but he was exactly right. And that's why Cromwell is using the cells of Hoshino Taite that they stole from Windermere, so that they can use the fold system that Lloyd used in the first Delta movie to basically try to make everybody in the galaxy become of one mind, and to force it through using the mind control of Hoshino Taite, which is Mikumo. So by using the same cells, they could have the same effect to be able to use that whole network to basically create a superfold gate that will pull Mega Road 1 into normal space so they can destroy it. And that's his whole plan, is to destroy Mega Road 1. Because once you destroy Mega Road 1, there's no more Lady M. And if there's no Lady M, humanity can develop without being controlled and have full access to full protoculture technology. Now, what X-Star makes sure to explain is that Lady M is trying to prevent Lady M believes that humanity is still too young and immature and not ready to handle the technology of a protoculture because it's so far advanced beyond everything they've ever seen. And she doesn't want humanity to go through the same thing that the protoculture went through, that ended up with the protoculture being completely wiped out by the Proto-Devil, basically. Between the Zentradi and the Proto-Devil, and everybody just got wiped out. So she doesn't want that to happen again, so she's trying to limit how quickly technology advances. And this is why it's so important to see what happens in Macross 2, is because the technology takes a step back. And this is very important if Lady M is trying to prevent them from going overboard with technology, and with the use of over technology, and through protoculture technology, is she doesn't want them to go, she wants to make sure to protect humanity. Well, it ends up turning out that the Marduk coming in and just waylaid everything. But it's another key point that needs to be understood when talking about the canonicity of Macross, which it is canon, because this is very directly connected to that explains that. So, you have that. And then, of course, this video is going to be long, because I've been waiting a long time to be able to talk about this, so I'm going to explain everything. Then, this scene happens where, basically Cromwell sends an attack squad of SV-303s to attack the base. This is where they find out that the Siren system is actually learning from their songs. I mean, we know that from watching from the very beginning, like the first battle in Windermere with Cromwell and stuff, but this is where Machina notices that the Siren system is actually learning from their songs and then using that to overpower them, basically. So that's actually quite a big deal. This is why Watakude is Watakude really has no real major victories in any of this movie until the end, and that's only because of Freya, basically. So, this is very important. And so, with, I'm gonna jump ahead because this is just another battle. They escape. Alad comes up with a new plan to try to get to Windermere to try to stop them from killing Lady M and to destroying Mega Road 1. And this is where you find out when they pull it out of fold space the first time, which they pull it out twice for a specific reason. You find out Mega Road really is stuck there, for one, which basically proves everything X-Star was explaining earlier on in the movie, that Mega Road 1 can't get out of fold space. And it's stuck there between two fold faults. So there's two waves. This is explained in I don't remember if Frontier explained it a little bit, or it was mostly the Delta movie, but there's waves within fold space, and in order to yeah, they did this in the first Frontier movie. This was explained. um, that um, that based on those waves can determine the length of time it can take to travel between place to place through folding. So and so when Megaroid 1 was caught in a fold, it got caught between two waves basically and got stuck, and it can't get out. Now, this scene here, after the battle, actually this goes back to implementing something was from the TV series that they actually removed from the first movie. Was when in the TV series of Delta they had a specific scene where Freya and Hayate, because of Hayate having that fold quartz necklace, he has a very strong connected feeling with Freya, and they kind of like merged together or something like that, like through Freya singing in the fold quartz, like pushing Hayate's consciousness level and stuff, and his ability to fly and stuff. And it's in the TV series it makes him like get the Vol syndrome, but in this it doesn't go that far. But what happens after this battle is finished is Hayate and Freya have that connection, and it actually causes Freya's crystallization, her like shortening her life, to the rate to increase like crazy, and she's ends up being removed from the front line by Kaname, because Kaname is the leader of Water Kid, right? You'll just be in the way because you can barely stand and stuff like that. So Freya's done. And Hayate feels really bad because he feels like it's his fault that happened, and there's, I think Mirage or Chucks ask, isn't there a way to fix it? And Makina and Reina both say no, because it's not an illness. So basically, she's using her life energy, so there's no way to like reverse the effects of it. So so basically, she won't get any better, and she's just gonna, if she continues to sing, she'll just get worse. So that basically happened. So Freya's out. So now it's Water Kid is only 4 members for now, and I say for now because something happens later. Borg is a member of Delta Squad now. He's Delta 6, with green paint. There's also a specific scene before. I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but there's a scene before, and this is just an Easter egg. So I mentioned about Alad getting, his leg broken, right? Well, before that scene, we have a scene of Max and Alad eating pineapple salad and steak. What is this a reference to? If you remember the original TV series, the episode is called Pine Salad. Roy Fokker dies. Claudia is making pine salad. He just dies while he's sitting there playing his guitar. The steak reference is to Kakizaki from the original TV series. So, for people who've never watched, who didn't know what was happening in this movie because it was their first time watching this particular movie, and they know the original Macross, those two things mean people are dying. Like, literally, they're like, oh boy, are they going to kill Max? Are they going to kill Alad? Or what's going to happen? So people and even I know, I'm like, oh shit, somebody's dying. And it didn't actually, nobody actually died, but Alad does get removed from front lines because his leg is broken, he can't fly Valkyrie. So it did actually, have a bad thing happen to him. But anyway, I just want to make that point because that's something that you're probably not going to notice. But like I said, there's so much stuff that happens in this movie, and there's so many things that you have to pay attention to that you can't understand it all in one viewing. This is a very, very deep movie, and to understand everything, I've already, like, between the 3 times I've seen it in the theater and the 3 times I watched it yesterday, I've seen it 6 times total, and I still don't understand some stuff. So, you know, I need to watch it a few more times. But, so we got through that. They set up the plan to attack Windermere, and this is a little bit going back to what I was talking about earlier. They try to use Warukire's songs to push to be able to open a superfold gate to get to Windermere. They succeed. They get in there, and then the real battle starts. The real final battle starts, and that's where, you know, Freya, they actually do a jamming thing to jam Yamikure's signal so they can protect Mega Road 1. Well, what happened was that while they're singing, they managed to pull it out once, and after they've arrived at Windermere, and there's 2 shadowy figures in the window, and I paused it, I watched it. It's Hayase Misa, just based on the way that the silhouette looks, because they're only in silhouette form. They don't actually show you who they are. One of them is Hayase Misa, guaranteed. The other one looks smaller. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about the outside lore of Macross, outside the TV series and the explanation of what happens after Do You Remember Love, Ichijo and Hayase, of course, get married. And right as they're leaving, they're getting ready to leave Earth on Mega Road 1, they have a daughter named Miku. So, the shadowy figures looking outside from Mega Road 1 are Hayase and her daughter. So, let's keep that in mind. It's Hayase and her daughter. Although there's been explanations that it's Ichijo and somebody. It's been an explanation that it's Minmei and Miku, but based on the silhouette, it looks exactly like Hayase Misa, and she's with her daughter, keeping an eye out on what's going on. So everything was true about what happened to Mega Road 1. It got stuck. It's, you know, it's basically whoever's on Mega Road 1 is the one sending out the commands to Chaos and all that stuff about all the protoculture stuff. So it basically confirms all this stuff. Well, they managed to jam Yamikure's signal for a little bit, and then so it managed to protect Mega Road 1 once. And Max is very careful in his words. He says, Mega Road 1 o mamore. Or I think it was Irime o mamore, something like that. Now, he doesn't say rescue, he says protect. So even Max understands that Lady M is trying, and what's going on in Mega Road 1 is actually extremely important that they stay where they are. But they don't explicitly say why. Now, people theorize that maybe in Fold Space they bumped into Tori no Hito, and they're trying to prevent it from escaping Fold Space so that it doesn't go around like destroying everything. Which is one, you know, theory that's out there, but there's no proof of any of this. But it's very specific that they want to keep Mega Road 1 wants to stay where it is in Fold Space. So, and also time travels at a much slower rate in Fold Space, so that's why Hayase and them probably still look really, really young compared to like Max, who's a grandpa now. So that's another thing you need to understand. This is all stuff that's in the lore that's outside the animated stuff, so you have to know Japanese to understand any of this stuff. So during the final battle, like Warukire's, you know, having her trouble, Of course, one of the most important scenes happens right before the final battle and right before they start that operation. And I need to explain a couple things and go back a little bit for the final battle. Um, the for one, Freya tries to get up and join Waterkide, and Hayate tells her to just don't sing. And she asks, well, would you be able to live without flying? And he's like, well, I want to be with you, I want to live with you, and for as long as I can be with you, and all this other stuff, really romantic stuff. And then the blast doors close, which is a direct homage to what happened in the second Frontier movie with Ranka and Aruto. The thing is that I think that the homage is better than the original, because the original, Aruto's already thinking about Cheryl, and he's not really interested in Ranka. So it's not exactly romantic. It's really kind of a sad situation there. Whereas the one in this movie in particular, they do love each other, and Hayate wants to stay with her and doesn't want her to basically kill herself through singing, right? So the scene is a lot more powerful than the Frontier version, I think. Which is, the Frontier version is kind of like, is an homage to the original TV series where Minmei and Ichijo kiss. So that's an homage to that, and then the Frontier version is that, and then the Delta Zettai version is probably, I think the original TV series version and the Delta Zettai version are the two best. I think the one in Frontier, it's sad, but it's, I just think the one here in the second Delta movie is a lot more powerful. Now, going back to the final battle, well, there was one more thing I had to mention before that, is that because of Alad not being able to fly, he makes Mirage Delta leader. So, this is a key turning point. So, this is why I said that everything was foreshadowing. This was to get Mirage to be Delta leader. And Max even questions Alad's decision. He's like, well, why did you make her leader? And he's like, oh, just watch. And so eventually, yeah, Mirage shows that she's not an ace pilot caliber pilot, but she's an excellent leader, and she can control us, and she can lead a squadron, and she is a genius at it. So, being that Max and Miria are ace pilots, they're geniuses, and they're super famous for how well their piloting is. Mirage's specific genius genes, basically, where she's a genius bait through being a member of the genius family, is her ability to analyze situations from afar and be able to send out commands and lead. She's a genius in being a leader, and this doesn't happen without Max being there, because Max being there, and she's constantly feeling bad because she's there around her super famous grandpa, and she's constantly beating herself up over it. You can tell in all of her expressions throughout after Max appears, she's constantly constantly depressed, oh, I can't keep up with everybody, and grandpa's watching, and he's gonna he's gonna criticize me and all this other shit, right? But once she realizes that, at the very end of the freaking movie, by the way, she finally realizes and reaches her full potential, let's say. So Mirage gets really important character development out of this. Let's see. So you got that, and then during the final battle, Alad is able to command from the ship really well, and Max notices this, so he makes Alad captain, and then he says, you're better at this than I am, and he gives him the captain's hat, and then Max starts to walk off. Exodor stops him and says, Max, of all the years we've been together, this is the best decision you've ever made. And, Max and Exodor have been together for 30 years at this point, working together with on Macross 7 and stuff like that. So, it's that's a very powerful comment. And so Max gets to go out and, be Max in battle. And of course, they made him be perfect because Max is perfect. And if there's no one who could actually beat Max in a straight up fight, maybe Isamu. There's a lot of arguments that Isamu is better than Max. No way. Max is number one, and Isamu is probably number two in terms of piloting skill. But that's an argument. Are you a supporter of Max or are you a supporter of Isamu? That happens in the Japanese Macross fan community, so just keep that in mind. But ends up being that Max is better than Isamu, but they're basically up there together at the same level of amazing pilot, right? So Max gets a scene at the end of the movie in the final battle of him in his Durandal, just laying waste to everything. And another thing I'm going to say really quickly. The SV303s have 6 small ghosts attached to them that they use as like little mini cannons, and they're very reminiscent of the Squires from Macross 2, and so keep that in mind. That's actually showing technology getting closer to what happens in Macross 2. So shut up, people who say Macross 2 is a parallel universe. Need to say that every time I get the chance. Then Freya actually drags herself out of bed and goes up and sings with Watakire and actually surprises Yamikure when she sing how I have to like singing his life and all this other stuff, and they're actually kind of surprised by it. It creates a serious bug in the Siren system. So the Epsilon guy tries to leave, and Cromwell basically murders him right there on the spot. But Cromwell knows that it's all over. But I need to make another point that the second time that they pull Mega Road 1 out of space, they pull it at a lower angle. So the shot from the super Macross cannon, the larger Macross cannon that Battle Australia has, actually will destroy Windermere at the exact same time. So it destroys everything. Like, it'll destroy all of the Chaos ships, and it'll destroy Windermere, and it'll destroy Mega Road 1 all at the same time. So they have to try to stop the Battle Australia as quickly as possible. So, well, Freya starts singing the song Alive Inori no Uta at the very, it's the very last song, and it causes all the runes of the Windermereans to have the rune flowers, what it's called. So it's like an awakening for the Windermereans, I guess. They don't really explain what that actually entails, but that happens, and then Hayate manages to get into the Battle of Straya's bridge. That's when Cromwell tries to fire the cannon. Then Alad orders all the Macross ships and things to fire their Macross cannons and destroy the Battle of Straya. And it's basically being destroyed, so they think Hayate is shot down with it. Hayate makes it out. His Valkyrie's completely scorched and scratched up and everything. But he's carrying something. And he's carrying this little round thing. And inside this little round thing is a baby. So the entire time that this thing is inside this little capsule, it's been growing. So so now they have a baby there. Now, while Freya is singing the song, you can actually see its mouth it's very hard to see on. It was easier to see in the movie theater than on a computer screen that I'm watching on, but the mouth is moving and singing along with Freya. Foreshadowing! But right at the end, after Hayate makes escape, Freya passes out. And Hayate makes it back to the ship, and they land on Windermere. And Freya is basically on her last legs. He brings the baby over to her. She gets to stroke its head, and she notices something, and then she moves the hair out of the way, and it's a rune. So what had happened was that Freya had been able to give her feelings to the Siren system. It learned from her feelings. And of course, the reason why the Siren system stops working properly is because, Yami Freya is there, and Yami Freya actually has that same, awakening, Windermere and awakening thing with the rune flower thing. And that's why they end up not being there anymore. and Hayate is able to rescue the baby and bring it back. Freya notices it, and then he hands the... They don't actually show this, but he actually hands the baby over to Mirage to hold. And then he carries Freya over to the edge of the stage so she can look over all of Windermere. And she can see all that stuff. And then they do the little Hayate thing with his father with saying, like, one-liners. Like, the sky is vast, all this other stuff. And then, this is the saddest part of all, is Freya says, Hayate ga suki. And then Hayate says, Freya ga suki da. And says, I love you too. And then he kisses her, and while he's kissing her, she passes away. Just, oh god, that scene. Like, I can't watch that scene, like, without crying obsessively. It's such a powerful scene. And this is the first time in Macross where they actually had a lead character die at the end. So, and this is why I mentioned that they've done things. This is the first time that's a lot of things have been done in Macross. This is the main thing, is they've never had a character die at the very end. And in particular, a main character like Freya, or a Mikumo kind of character, like one that's like up in the front, right? So, I wanted to just mention that. And while they're talking, you can watch, like, Freya's, this is also a lot of metaphoric stuff that's going on, and through visuals. There's a lot of metaphors here, where Freya's, clothing turns white, like, completely white. So, what that's basically saying is, like, that's, like, there's two ways you could look at it. It's foreshadowing that she's about to die through the crystallization because it makes white skin, or it's a wedding dress. And so you can look at it both ways. I tend to think of it as more of a wedding dress, just because it seems more romantic that way. But, that's up to interpretation by each individual person. I consider a wedding dress because it's such a powerful moment where they're... And it's the first and only time Hayate and Freya kiss, and she dies in the middle of it. Just, Jesus Christ. And then they sing the final song, which is kind of a sad song. And what's really amazing is that that Mikumo is crying the entire time she's trying to sing the song. Now, there was a scene earlier in the movie that I want to go back to really quickly, where after Freya's, inside the little capsule, like Cheryl is at the end of this Frontier movie, the second Frontier movie, and also the short movie that's with this one. Mikumo goes in there by herself, and she is crying, like, I want to sing with you again. I want you to be with Water Kyude again, and this goes back to another thing that this person who, claimed that Mikumo was nothing but a robot clone that had no emotion. This movie, Mikumo is so emotional. Like, so emotional. She's so human in this movie. So, even though she doesn't take a main role like she had in the first movie or even in the TV series, everything that she gets in this movie is such good character development. It's amazing. So you get Mirage having amazing character development, you get Mikumo having amazing character development, you have Freya's death, you have, there's all this stuff with Alad and Max. There's, the whole backstory behind Mega Road 1, the fact that they're using a Shiro Apple AI system again, and the battle scenes are, The battle scenes of this movie are a return to the Itano Circus. Now, the Itano Circus is a phrase given to anything that Itano has ever done. Because Itano, from the original Macross and other stuff, and Macross Plus especially, Macross Plus is really good for this, is having a bazillion missiles and very, exciting kind of battles with lots of missiles, lots of shooting, and all kinds of stuff going on at the same time. This movie, as much as it's CG, managed to recreate the entire Itano Circus, where it is the battle scenes are fast, they're extremely high paced. There's lots of missiles and things everywhere on screen at once. There's all these ghosts flying around. It's just it's a mess, and that's what the Itano Circus is. Yeah, even though Itano had nothing to do with this movie, this feels like a Macross. This absolutely feels like real Macross. To me, this is Do You Remember Love, Macross 2, Macross Plus level of, this feels like Macross in every way, shape, and form. And yes, I said Macross 2 because Macross 2 is canon, and I'm going to always say that. Now, that's basically the end of the movie. I explained through everything, gone through the entire story. And after the credits, so during the credits, after that kind of sad song at the end with Watakiri singing that sad song, they switched to a very happy song. And this is, when I saw it in the movie theater, I was like, I'm crying profusely, I'm so sad, and then you're playing this freaking happy song. Well, it's kind of like how Freya would be, right? She would want everything to be happy and lighthearted and everything like that. So I can see where they went with that, but that just the gap between the what you just saw happen on screen and the credit roll song, just Jesus. It's a roller coaster of emotions. And then after the credits are over, there's like a little 30-second thing. Hayate's on Windermere. They show Windermere. They show the flowers actually blooming, the apple flowers blooming. And you hear Hayate doing his, the thing he did his father would do with the one-liners. And he's doing it with this little girl. It's a little girl actually growing up as like the baby that he saved, and he's keeping her on Windermere, and he's raising her as his own daughter. So yeah, that's a really happy end to everything. And the thing is that everything that that she says one of Freya's like main phrases, kaku wo suru ni yo. And so Freya managed to, through all that stuff, managed to not implant her over there, but implant her soul over there. But the girl looks like Freya, and like a young Freya, not exactly the same, but kind of looks like her, and she has she kind of talks in a similar way. I'm pretty sure Suzuki Minori did the voice for her. But I will say there is no name for her. This is stated in the booklet that Kawamori never gave her a name, and they still haven't named her. So she's a no-name. Cute as hell, though. And and ending the movie like that was just, oh my god. The final scene of the movie being that, Jesus. But yeah. But that's basically everything in the movie. I didn't explain everything, and I had to jump around a bit because there's just so much that happens in this movie. I've said it before. There's so much that happens in this movie that you actually can't keep track of everything in order. It's so hard. So if you watch this and then you go and watch the movie after this, after hearing all these spoilers and things, you'll notice that I kind of jumped around quite a bit because there was things that I absolutely forgot to say that I had to go back and say later because there's just so much depth to this movie. This is why I say it's the third best thing in Macross, because it has everything you need. It has the Itano Circus. It has, even though Itano's not there, has the Itano Circus. It has, these high-paced battle scenes. It has a lot of deep proto-culture lore. It brings back stuff about Mega Road 1, which has been kind of left alone for the past 30 plus years of Macross series and stuff like that. They've very rarely touched on Mega Road 1. So getting an answer to what happened on Mega Road 1 is there. You have Max there as a catalyst to develop Mirage, and also to have Alad go to the next step too. You know, there's just so much to it. It's just, you know, and everybody needs to watch it. Just you have to watch this movie. Like I've said it before, is that I hated Delta before. I love Delta because of this movie. This movie changes your opinion of Delta. Even if you thought the first movie was bleh, I think it's garbage outright. But or if you thought TV series was really lacking in a lot of ways, you watch this, you're like, okay, I'm a Delta fan now. That's basically what it is. It completely changes your view because it's so well made. It's like finally Kawamori gave us what we've been wanting for decades. Like I haven't, like, the just Macross has been in, like, because Macross doesn't make a bazillion series, like a new series every stinking year like Gundam or something does, right? Or does multiple things with Gundam at the same time, like, you know, doing that fake Hathaway's Flash movie, and also doing that new Witches from Mercury thing that they're starting up soon. I think it's next month, or it might be this month. This month or next month is when they start airing that. Ugh. But they because Macross doesn't do like constant stories over and over and over again, we have to wait a long time to get something good. And Frontier was not that great. I mean, people are going to just piss off. I don't like Frontier that much. I don't like the characters very much. Then we get Delta a few years later, and Delta was meh. And then you have the Delta the first Delta movie was meh. Zero is an OVA, which is good, but it's very different because it's a prequel to Do You Remember Love and all that stuff, right? So, you know, it's just a whole bunch of, you know, like, we haven't had something consistent since, like, basically, like, 7, I would say. And even 7 isn't the most consistent series, right? But it's also got too long. But, you know, the fans like me who have been fans since the beginning and watching the original Macross and stuff like that, we've been wanting something like this for a very, 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 very long time. And to finally get it, this is why I say it's the third best thing in Macross. You can't get better than this. Like, Frontier will never beat this. Nothing Delta had will beat this. Zero can't beat this movie. Like, just everything about this movie makes it better than all of those together. And, you know, that's why it of course doesn't reach the level of, like, Do You Remember Lover 2, but, you know, it's the best thing we've had in Macross in decades. So watch it, enjoy it, watch it a bazillion times, understand the lore that's behind it, because the lore is extremely important to understand for this. And then you'll understand, you'll see the little things like, oh, it connects to Macross too. Oh, it connects here, it connects here, it connects here. You got all these connections all over the place. Yeah. So, I've gone on quite long enough about this, but I wanted to go do this like a full, you know, explain the story and stuff like that, because there's not going to be any of these up there right now for this. But I wanted to get it out as quickly as possible, because I watched it 3 times yesterday. I want to have it in my head, like everything that happened, and even then I didn't get it all in exact chronological order, because there's just so much stuff going on, and it's just so deep. So anyway, that is my review of Macross Delta Zettai Raibu. I'm not going to talk about the Macross Frontier short, because it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't do anything, nothing special. So this is if you're a Macross fan, you have to watch this. Just period. You have to watch it. You must watch it. Okay, so I'm gonna stop talking now, and I'm leaving the archive of the live stream up for a day, and then what is it? After that, I'm gonna probably take it down. So get on it and watch it. So anyway, I will see you all in the next video, and watch this goddamn movie.